Welcome, stranger. Going to be doing a video on the Minolta XGM. Going to show you how to remove the top cover and how to put it back on. The XGM is not a very popular camera with DIYers. Mostly they like the Canons and Nikons, maybe the Minolta SRTs, but not the XG1 or X700 or the XGM. So, yeah, this video won't be very popular, but let's do it anyway. Let's get started. Okay, we're going to now start on the camera, taking that top off. Even for those of you that are not interested in the I'll call it the Minolta plastic series, XGM. There's always something to be learned from any disassembly of a camera that you can apply to the cameras. So it never hurts to watch. Just grab a cup of coffee and observe and see what you can learn. If you can even, I've watched videos before on YouTube just to learn one or two facts. Videos that I knew most of the content already back when I was building my set for to make these videos. So never hurts to watch the disassembly of any camera. All right, we'll do the rewind, then the advance, and then the speed control, which is kind of the order I usually like to use. Okay, rewind. We need to get inside to get to that fork. The film door is in the way. So on this particular camera, it very handily, Minolta put a release here. Press that down and the stud retracts and you can get the door off. And let's see if I can, no, I'm in the way. I like to work close because I've watched many videos of camera repairmen putting the camera overhead and you can't really see what's going on. So even though maybe it's this tray that's causing a problem here, let's move that other way. Come on, focus, 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 focus. There we go. That stud up there retracts and the door comes off, which is handy. Minolta did this because they sold, I think they were called data banks, which imprinted the film with dates or numbers or something like that. Each company had data banks, but this one was quick release, which was nice. Set that aside. Okay. Now, back's off. What do we need to do next? Well, the prong we need to get to is there, but the shutter is exposed. And if you've watched some of my other videos, and I'm looking here for it, where is it at? It's right here right now. Reach over there. You know that you always want to protect the shutter. Now the shutter on this particular camera is cloth covered with rubber, and you can touch it and you're not going to hurt it. But on many of these 35s, you touch it like that, you've destroyed the shutter, especially if they're metal, especially if they're horizontal. And so I've found in repairing cameras over 40 years that whatever you're going to do for one camera, just do it for all the cameras, and that way you'll get into the habit. When I started repairing cameras, I'd kind of pick and choose. And in doing so, I'd forget sometimes, and that was not a good system. So finally, I just started going ahead and if I do it to one camera, I do it to all the cameras. And covering the shutter is something you always want to do. Okay, the prong here. I've discussed so many other videos of mine that I'm not going to tell you. don't use a screwdriver. Now, on this particular camera, which was strange, on all the other SLRs, you unscrewed this, right? Okay. But on this Minolta electronic camera, what you've got here at the top is a screw, which is kind of handy because then it can't back out like it can on the other cameras. So that was a pretty good idea they had. Let's go ahead and get in close here and see what we can mess up. Where is it at? There it is. Get my screwdriver here and hold it and back that out. It's a standard right. There we go. And as you can see or can't see, hold on, I'll get it. It's flat on two sides, so it can't spin. With the screw in there, it's tight. And the same way here, you can see two sides are flat. Just something to note. Now I'm going to set this aside in a Petri dish, which I have more and more of liking those. Okay, now we've got this whole camera top on most of the parts has a notch at both sides, which makes it kind of nice because then you can use the same tool to undo everything. So these this tool here should have square points, and I've got some, but I prefer these round points for if I can use them because they're easier to use. So I don't know if I can do this on monitor. I know I can do it without the monitor, but with monitor. So counterclockwise. Electronic cameras, normally the parts are not very tight, like on, whoa, Sony is just acting up. Let's back this up just a bit. Maybe that'll help. Sometimes I wonder if there's a better focusing system on the market than Sony. I keep reading that Sony's got the best. If this is the best, it's not good enough for me. Okay, we got that nut off. I call it a nut because it's got the threads. There we go. Set it again in a Petri dish. And there is inside here a washer. I call these clip washers, among other names. I don't know what the official name is. The way it works is it's got ridges pointing up and pointing down, and it allows parts it keeps them tight. But if you need to move them up or down, you can do so by pressing against the spring. And it'd say, well, why do they need that? They need that because this has an ASA that you can change. And to change it, watch here, you see how that's moving down? It's moving down, but if it were on the camera, actually you're pulling the outside ring up. So that's why that's the way it is to get it over this stud right here and allow you to turn things. Because you've got two controls here. You've got your ASA, you've got your ASA that you can change, but you've also got this, what would this be called? Compensator? If you want to underexpose your exposure one stop, you set it like this. Or if you want to overexpose it, you set it like this. And I think that if you've ever seen pictures of snow with your normal camera, they'll always come out kind of dark. And so when you're like shooting in snow, you might want to go up to one stop and shoot all your pictures in snow. Maybe even two stops or a stop and a half. But that way you don't have to constantly be fiddling with your camera and calculating the exposure for each particular setup. If it's snowy outside, you want to overexpose slightly. Otherwise, your prints will come out dark, like it's overcast. Okay, take that off. And again, drop it on the Petri dish. Aren't those great? Wished I'd known about those years ago. Okay, a learning moment. The devil's in the details. Look at this right here. This is a stud that goes down to a resistor ring, which tells the camera what ASA you're at, or possibly if you got your camera set to underexposed or overexposed, again, this stud will be telling the camera what your setting is. And when you reassemble the camera, bear with me, when you reassemble the camera, I'm looking down here now at it. Okay, there we go. That's pretty good. Marked it there. You won't be able to see where the hole is. And where is the hole? The hole is right, I'm looking for it right here. That stud goes in that hole right there. But the problem is, when you put it on the camera, that stud could be anywhere, all the way from here to here, or anywhere in between. And so you're pressing down and you're saying, well, where in the hell is it? Well, before you assemble it, you've got your marks. And so you put your stud right there between the marks. You put this 0 on here, and then you go down and maybe wiggle a little bit. I felt it go in, but of course you didn't hear anything or see anything, but it's in the hole. Much easier than fooling around with it 5 minutes, pressing down and possibly damaging this or damaging the contacts underneath. When on a lot of tutorials I've seen here on YouTube, they don't tell you these little things, and these little things are what the amateur needs to know. I hold the hand of my amateurs and walk them through this so they are not frightened and they are sure exactly what's going on. I try to explain everything, and it makes my videos really long. And okay, next we're going to take off the advance right here. We're going to put our little tool here and here. So we have got that off. Can I do this on the monitor? Probably not. A couple of more years at this. Okay, it went in. And I'm going to get better at this. For 40 years I've been looking through my magnifiers, and I have missed. Here I was patting myself on the back, and I missed. There we go. I felt it go in. Okay, and there we go. Broke it free. As I said or may not have said, the parts usually on electronic cameras are not as tight as on mechanical cameras. For one thing, they're not as old, but electronic cameras usually have a lot of plastic, and I really can't say because this is all metal. I don't know why, really. I just know that after working on cameras so long that the electronic cameras don't seem to, the parts don't seem to be as tight. You see here with the flat side, this shaft goes from the top of the camera all the way to the bottom, and down at the bottom of the camera are some charging gears, which on this particular camera are plastic. Okay, now you say, well, what's this weird thing? Well, each camera has something, some way, some system to keep it from just flopping loose. It has to be, when it's not being used, you want the lever in. And when you're ready to charge it or take your picture, you want it out. And it has to switch from one to the other. And what Minolta did, again, pretty brilliant, they put a stud here and here, and they cut a notch in this here and here. And then they made a high point. If you look left and right, you see the high points on both sides. And then they put some studs here and here, and that's grease. So what happens is it sits at the bottom of the valley, or the lowest point, goes over the stud, and then falls into the other low point. So you can lock it here or here, and they did it all with one little clip. Pretty ingenious. Okay, I've seen some complicated systems that took a lot more parts. Okay, again, just some notches on both sides. This nut here holds down the top cover on the right side of the camera. And let's see if I got it loose enough. Oh, I think I did. Here it goes. In other words, on this side, the screw holds the top cover down. But on this side, there's no screw. This nut here is what's holding the top cover down. And when you reassemble it, you don't want to get this extremely tight, or you'll damage something. Probably a 2 or 3 is enough. Now let's see if I can get this out of here. Probably not. I just couldn't. I did it. Thought I couldn't be that lucky. It's brass. It's a nut. Okay. Again, Petri dish parts. It's good to separate them out because when you're working on a camera, you don't know if you're going to get to it the next day or 3 weeks later. Life can get in the way, and things happen, and you just put it off. And then when you come back, you got all these parts on your desk. You're not really sure what goes to what. You don't know which parts goes to the rewind, and which to the advance, which to the speed control. So it's a good idea to separate them out, no matter what camera you're working on. Okay, let's see if we can keep going here. Again, the notches. Thank you, Minolta, for making things simple. Because on the mechanical cameras, quite often, they use different types. It takes different types of tools to get things apart. Oh, yeah, always forgetting something. You notice this is on A. Whenever I take off a speed control, if you've watched any of my other videos, I normally set it on 1000 or on bulb, counting on which camera it is and the timing underneath, and which works best. And I write it up in notes on my computer. On this particular camera, the best is A. And the reason A, or automatic, is the best is because you see this button right here. This button locks this wheel in place in A. It won't lock in B or 1000. It can move while you're working on the camera. And so when you reassemble it, it's hard to find the exact point it should be at, this wheel. But if you take it off in A, this button here has got it locked, so you know that next time when you reassemble it, you want to put it back in A, and it'll slip right in. And let's see if I can get this off here like this. There we go. Came up. Take that off. Grab another Petri dish. Pull this out. That just lifts off like that. Simple. Okay, another learning moment that you won't find in the other tutorials. See that silver dot there? On the Minolta, on the, I think it's on all of them, although I've checked, like the XG1 and the 7000, this one, that button there, when you rest your finger on that silver circle, it turns on your meter. You don't even have to press. Just rest your finger on it. I forget what it's called. Something about capacitance or capacitor or something like that. But anyway, it turns on your meter. And over time, this silver dot here gets tarnished or even rusted. So you have to get a Dremel tool. If you put your finger on this dot on your camera and the meter's not turning on, it's because the tarnish on here, or the rust is not letting it make contact with the end of your finger. So you have to get a Dremel tool with a wire brush and brush it off and get down to the metal again. So when you put your finger on, it'll turn your meter on. Now, how cool is that? Okay. Got our advance, got our speed control, got our rewind. What's next? Not much. Screw here, screw here, screw here, and then this front plate. A lot of cameras have a front plate up here. I don't know exactly what the purpose of it is. Maybe then just put the name of the camera on there. So that's the next thing we need to get off. This would be a good place to take a break. My voice was giving out on me. Had to drink some water. I wanted to show you the different parts at the top of the camera. Put in these Petri dishes. You can get those from Amazon, which are very handy. Another thing I use is these ceramic paint dishes. I tried some plastic ones, but occasionally I would hit my hand against one, and since they were plastic, parts would fly everywhere. But these are ceramic, very heavy, and if your hand hits them, they're not going to fly off and you're going to hold on your parts. These are very good too. I use them daily. As you can see, I even marked them with, I don't know what that thing I've got is. It makes that tape. Okay, need to get this front plate off next. The wrong camera. This plate has a lip up here at the top, and so does the top cover, and they mesh. And so you can't get off the top cover without taking off this plate. And take that out like so. And that's out. And I'm putting this right here because we're fixing to have another learning moment here. Whoops, sorry. Sometimes I'm looking down and see what I'm doing and I forget about the cameras. Okay, we got those out. So, maybe I ought to switch to the other camera. You have to lift it out and turn it up a little bit, about 45 degrees. There we go. To get it off the top of that lip there. And let's see if I can get, okay, off. All right. Let's see here. Switch again. You can see that indent where that plate went. That's the reason it has to come off. Can't get it top cover off without getting it off. This little bracket here with that lens in it, when you're looking at your f-stops of the viewfinder, that's what this is. It's pointed down towards your lens. Like if you're at f16, f16 will show up through this little window up in your prism where you can see it. And then of course, just like on the SRT, you still got your follower for your lens. Okay, learning moment. Now I need to catch the light in a certain direction. Okay, enough playing. I don't want to bore you too much to death. The two screws here and here came out of the front on that plate that says Minolta. This screw here came off the left-hand side of the top cover. I don't know if you can see the difference. I could get another lens and get even closer, but the point is that these are machine screws. They're made to go into metal. Where this is a screw that's made to go into plastic. And when you're working on electronic cameras, sometimes the screws go into metal, sometimes they go into plastic, and they're always made differently. And that's the lesson here, is that when you're working on a camera that is electronic, now the old mechanical cameras didn't have plastic, so it wasn't a problem. But on these electronic cameras that have plastic, the screws that go into metal and the screws that go into plastic are different, always. The screws that go into plastic are coarse, and they're large, and they're sharp. They've got to be that way to get a good grip on plastic, where machine screws are usually short and finer and made to go into metal. So if you don't separate them, mark them, quite often amateurs will force plastic screws into holes that are made for machine screws. And they might be able to force them in there, but when they do, they damage the threads. And it's it's not professional, and it's a sin against the camera gods. So the point, when you take your own camera parts, you can look at them and you'll see the difference easier. This camera and setup is not really showing them as readily as you can if you saw them in person. Just remember, on any electronic camera, in this case the Minoltas, keep the plastic screws separate from machine screws. And if you ever get them mixed up in a tray or a petri dish, separate them out. The machine screws will be much easier to identify than the plastic screws, and separate them out and make sure you get machine screws back in metal and plastic screws back into plastic. And that's the lesson. Okay. Now we've got two screws here by the, I'm looking here, by the viewfinder. These screws go into plastic. So they're plastic screws, not machine screws. Normally, plastic screws that go into plastic take more torque. So, and I'm having trouble here getting organized. Here's my screwdriver set. These are cross point, and you can see one's quite a bit larger than the other. But what happens is that when you try to use this smaller one to take out plastic screws, quite often they'll slip and booger the head, run it. So if you really want to be careful and do it right, get the two sizes and use the larger cross point when you're dealing with plastic screws. They take more torque than the machine screws. Okay. That's out. Of course, you don't have to. You can use a smaller one but then you've really got to put some torque onto it, and it's uncomfortable. Since I do this for a living, why, I switch them out. You don't have to do this with mechanical cameras when it's all machine screws. You can use one screwdriver for the whole camera normally, but not for when you're mixing up plastic and metal. Okay, what else we got here? More learning moments. Learning moments. Let's see here. Okay. This button here we talked about will go into this hole in 4 different ways, but it won't work. In other words, if you put it in wrong and then put the camera back together and you're testing it, it won't go down. And then you've got to take the camera all the way apart just because you got this button in the wrong position. And kind of dumb that Minolta didn't, fix it in some way to where that wouldn't happen, but they didn't. So what you have to do, and I'm looking here, and do I have it or did I throw it away? Where is it? I made this. That's a piece of masking tape. So what you do is you put it on top of that button, and then you press it like this, and you won't find this in any other tutorial on YouTube, things like this, which is one reason I like my tutorials the best. So now when you take the top cover off, that will stay in place, and when you reassemble it, it's already in place and it's in the proper place. Also, this switch here, it has 2 positions, on and off, and underneath it is the switch. And when you reassemble the camera, let's say while you're working on the camera, let's say when you take it off, you weren't paying attention and it was on the on position. And then while you were working on the camera, you move the switch to the off position. When you put the top cover back on, it will not engage the switch, and you won't even know it until you get the camera all the way back together, and you're wanting to switch the camera on, and it won't work because the switch here did not engage with the switch underneath. It's little things like that that amateurs need to know, that just one is not that bad, but when you add them all up together, it can drive you crazy. Okay, let's see, where should I start? Let's start. We're almost there. We're almost done. So bear with me. We were just talking about the switch, so let's go ahead and move that back up that way. Here's the switch on the cover, goes down that hole there. And let's say that it's over here. It's in the on position. You take the top cover off, and then while you're working on the camera, look how easy this moves. It'll move over here, and then you put the top cover on, so the switch stud goes here. Does not engage. Get the top cover on, put everything back together, and then you're trying to switch the camera on, and it does not switch on because you didn't put this over here. So what I do is I always turn the switch off, and I know that when I put the top cover on, this has to be in this position here to engage, to keep that happening. All these things I'm showing you here, I've made the mistake. I've already been through the, let's say, the pain of learning. Here is that button I was telling you about. On the cover, it presses this right here. And if you don't get it in the right position, it won't press down. So, where's it at? Wires are holding it on there. I'm having a little trouble. Okay. Can't see it very well. but it's right here. That button there has to be in this position to where this little stud is here, and that little stud is there. And it's best just to tape it in place, and then it can't, when you put it back in, like I said, it can go in any of 4 but different positions. So just put a piece of tape on it, and here's the stud on your switch that engages the switch on the camera. As you can see right now, it's in the off position. I always put it there. Okay, what else? Well, you got the top cover off. Scratch my nose here. Now what? Well, you've got 2 wires here you need to unsolder that go to the flash shoe. And I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this. I don't think about these things anymore. I've been doing it so many years, I just do it. See if I can get this a little closer here. The green wire goes to here, to this solder joint place, and the white one goes here. And when you take it apart, you'll say, well, I remember that. No, you won't. I know, because I've repaired these too many times, and even I screw up. So, what do? Green, I'll mark it with my marker here. Not a very good G. And then over here, white, or W. And even today, after 40 years, I still label everything, just out of habit. Makes things go faster. And you say, well, I remember that. Well, what if you're not quite sure? What if, the dog got sick, or, there was some emergency around the house, and a week passed, and you're looking back at it and you say, well, did that white go over here, or was the green? I think it goes this way. And you'll just go ahead and solder it and think, well, it doesn't make a difference. Well, it does. I have seen up here, this is the flash shoe. One goes to what? I think one goes here, one goes here. This is your center contact that fires your flash. This over here is for the automatic. In other words, the camera is in the automatic section with a automatic flash. In other words, if you have a dedicated flash made by the Minolta for this camera, it will measure the, like if you got it'll know the distance to the subject, say it's 10 foot. And it'll set the power for the flash for 10 foot. And that's what this is for. And so, I've only seen it on the Minolta plastic electronic cameras, but for some reason, the current that goes here and here is, what shall I say it? Like I said, hard to explain. It's a battery has like 3 volts in it in this particular camera. There's 2 of them. But the voltage that goes through these is higher. I guess it has to do with the reason of the flash. I don't know. But I do know that that voltage comes down, goes into the circuit, and fries your ICs. Because ICs are made for extremely low voltage operation. And I've only seen it in this particular camera, like the XG1, the X700, and to a lesser degree the XGM, that a customer would like, he'd have his flash on, not off, but on, and when he pushed it on the camera, somehow the voltage leaked across these 2 and zapped his IC. I've seen, I'm going to say at least 100 times Customer zapped the IC on his XG1 or X700 simply because he didn't turn the flash off, install it, and then turn it on. Or maybe it was an off-brand and it had a higher voltage. Either way, like I said, these cameras are the only ones I've ever seen this happen to. And I saw it and got used to it, and it happened again and again and again, that somehow the flash shoe wires voltage was leaking down to the circuit and frying the ICs. Maybe some of you out there that are in electronics could explain it better, or at least understand what I'm talking about. So it's important that when you solder these wires back, you get them on the correct point. You don't want to put the green over here and the white over here, because voltage will start going the wrong places, and you'll fry your circuit, and then it's game over. So this is an extremely important thing that I'm teaching you here, that mark it, make sure green goes to here, white goes to here. If it's you're on a 700 or a XG1, same way, whatever wire goes there, mark them and make sure. I have seen, this is a plate here, but I have seen an IC. It was either the XG1 or the 7000 where the wire went directly from the flash chute down to the IC, which I couldn't believe that they'd be stupid enough to do that. You don't want to run a flash shoe voltage down to an IC on a camera. That is just asking for failure. And I used to have to remove these and solder them in new ones, and over and over and over again, because customers were zapping their ICs, not because the repairman put it in wrong, but because their flash was somehow shorting the IC up here. And I don't know exactly how they did it. I only can assume that they were leaving their flash on and putting it on, or possibly leaving the flash on and removing it. But either way, they were zapping the electronics in their camera. And on this camera, the electronics is the camera. In other words, if you zap the electronics, you got to replace everything. You can't component shoot on a camera like this. Most of the components are what we call flush mount, right on top of the flex circuit, and they're not to be replaced. I've done it. Replaced some components on it before, but it's hit or miss. And most of the time, it was just better to go ahead and replace the whole circuit. In other words, this whole flex circuit, which is here and goes under here, and it was expensive too to replace them. Back in the day, it was worth it if the cameras were new to order a new circuit and put it in. But just remember, for whatever it's worth, if you're working on an XG1 or X700 or any of these plastic electronic cameras, make sure these wires are soldered back to the correct point. And also remember, if you're using the camera, to turn the flash off before you take it off or put it on. And preferably, you never want to use a third-party flash. It's best to use Minolta flashes, because if the contacts are a little bit off center, or the voltages are not in Minolta specs, why, you will flash your circuit and kill your camera. Okay, that's more than enough. I don't imagine that many of you will actually be working on these cameras anyway, but I gave you 40 years worth of information for free there, and it may save you from losing a camera, or it may help you save your next camera. So let's stop here and get this. When I come back, we'll put this back together. Okay, we're recording. Put this thing back together. If you've repaired cameras before and you've got some experience, you may not want to watch this second half. It's pretty much reverse of taking it apart. So I've really already told you about timing marks and warnings about what to do and not to do. But for the amateur out there that has never repaired cameras, well, I never have liked the idea of just taking something apart and say, okay, here, and just put it back together the way I've worked on cars in the past where they've done that to me, and I didn't like it. I like somebody to show me how to put it back together, even if I'm the one that took it apart. So that's what this second half is about. I took this off right here. This is the contact. I don't know if you can see it here. There's your contacts there, and they contact these make contact with these points down here. So when you set your f-stop, it tells the camera what f-stop, ASA, excuse me. It's getting late here. When you set your ASA on your camera with your film, this tells the camera what ASA you've got. Or if you're shooting in snow, something, and you want to set it to where it's slightly overexposed or underexposing your pictures, this also gives that information to the camera. So this goes on like so. And will it go on? Or is it going to be stubborn? And it is being stubborn. There we go. It falls down into a notch. The way you can tell is this groove here faces toward the prism. And you've got your stud here, which is in gauges. So that goes on like so. This speed control is held down by that nut, but we didn't release that nut because we didn't need to. And then of course this right here is held in position. So what do we need to do here? Normally you lay it down like this, and this camera has a lot of wires. I never did like that. And you put this eyepiece like so. That's the reason you lay it down. You move these wires away from the edges so you don't actually cut one or crimp it, bend it, and then press down like so. Now I've got this switch here in the off position, and I did not check it before I put it down. So need to go back in, take this off, make sure that that's in the off position, and now I'm ready to go. That was my screw up. See how this wire comes out here and gets in the way? You don't want to break those. This camera has too many wires. Whoops. Why don't I see the stud? Where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, now we're down. Okay. Okay, any wires showing? No wires showing at the edges. Front's down. Is everything flush? Everything's flush. Good, good. This cover here is plastic, so it's not as bad as metal ones, which can actually cut the wires. So what do we need to do now? Well, we need to hold that top down, and as I explained during disassembly, on the right side, this screw here is what holds it in place. So we want to hold that top down. So go ahead and screw this back in place if we can. I might have to do it off camera. On my bad days where I can't seem to get anything done, that's what I have to do. I don't like doing it that way. I like amateurs to see me do the whole process. but sometimes it's necessary if I'm particularly clumsy that day. Okay, it's snug. Now I'll get my come on. What am I doing wrong? There we go. Got it. Doesn't need to be tight. That was just about a 2 on a 1 to 10. The reason it doesn't need to be tight, this is pressing down on this side. And if you press down too hard, you'll bind the counter here, which I've done it before. You crank it down, and then when you try to advance the counter, it doesn't advance because you pressed against it. The parts are made to be separate, and they've got spacers, but if you really crank this down, you start bending everything down. This button here, let's see here if it's working. Take that off. Yeah, see there, it's pushing down and pressing against that release that I showed you on the top of the camera. By putting that tape on there, you know it's going to be right. These are things that save you time. The off, we checked it before we put the top on, so we know now that the switch underneath is being moved. And then we come to this side. See that little stud there? We want to get it where it's marked. And before we do that, though, we want to get the screw in here. Now, I mixed them in here together, but I know from experience that this is the one right here. Will it focus? Probably not. Sony's focusing on the stuff in the background. There we go. That is a plastic screw. You can tell by how coarse the threads are. Okay. Put that in. How tight? A 2 is enough on a scale of 1 to 10. Remember, you're screwing into plastic. It's kind of like a toy. You don't want to force it. It's not metal. If it was a metal, you could go a 3. See the contact there that's moving underneath? Okay. Let's see here. What do we need now? Go ahead and get this over here. No particular order here. This, I told you I always set my ASA for 100 when I'm disassembling cameras. That way I know that no matter what camera on, I know that 100 is where I need to set it. This 0 here needs to be pointed at this mark right here. And if you do all that right, it should fall right into the hole. If you've done it right. If I've done it right. And I should feel it. And I did. I felt it click as kind of as it went into the hole. If I didn't do it right, this knob would be up here at the back. And that's what I meant about it could have been anywhere if you hadn't marked it. And in this position, how are you going to move that stud? You can't reach it. You would have to take it off, move it, put it down, take it off, move it, put it down. And how long would that take? And you'd be frustrated and you'd be cursing, saying, well, who designed this? That's stupid. Okay, put this on like so. Work it through that clip that I was telling you about, that washer clip, that spring clip. I think when from video to video I changed the names, but it's not a washer. And it's kind of a circular disc clip that presses up and down at the same time. And it's hit the bottom. I felt it. Move that off like so. Hit the light. Don't forget that. Always want to hit the light when you're moving your camera around. Otherwise, you're not a real YouTuber. And again, just about a 2. Tell you what I've done in the past. Why did my nose keep itching? This is plastic. Most of this camera is plastic. And this nut here is screwed to this plastic. If you tighten this disc, which is metal, and you go to like a 4 in tightness, it'll actually break this plastic sleeve off. In other words, it's attached down to the camera, and you'll break it. It'll just pull up until it finally gets a crack in it and snaps off. I've done it in the past, so it can be done. So you press down this button, you're moving the contact. Like if you're shooting in snow and you want to overexpose all your pictures one stop. Put it back to 0. If you want to change your ASA, you lift up and turn. And I'm having some trouble here. Why am I having trouble? There we go. I just didn't lift far enough. You got to lift up, then drop it back down into place. So that's what that clip is for, and how the system works with the contact underneath. Pretty simple, but you got to be gentle. You got to remember you're playing with plastic here. Okay, the rewind knob. Reach down and grab the prongs so they're still. Slip that over that and put the screw in. On the mechanical cameras, you always can't see anything with that. I'm always in the way of my cameras. Of course, if you wanted to, I could just put an overhead camera like most of the other channels do and just point it down, and then I'd never be in the way of the camera. Of course, you wouldn't be able to see anything because they're usually really up high and they never change position, so they're boring as hell. Okay, there we go. Rewind knob is there, and this side's tied down. Got that. How about the front here? Let's go ahead and put that plate over. Since it's notched at the top and it's got that arm, you need to drop it up in the top first and then swing it down and then push in. Okay, like so. And now we need 2 machine screws. And since I've done this before many times over 40 years, I know that that's a machine screw right there, and that it goes into metal. And if I've got it in the right place, it goes right in. And you don't want to get these too tight. When you're screwing into metal, you can tighten them in way too tight for plastic. And whoops, what am I doing here? What's wrong? And you can actually break the plastic up here. You can crack it because metal and a metal screw is a lot stronger than plastic. So again, about a 2 is enough. And so there it is. Got your front on. What's next? Well, these screws here near the window you do put in, they are plastic screws, not made of plastic, but they screw into plastic. And since I took them out, they're harder to get out than they are to put in. And I'll put that one in like so. Not too tight. I have actually cracked the top cover before by tightening them too tight. People that work on, I say people, men who work on cars tend to always get things too tight because their practice is, their experience in the past is working on cars where you want to get things as tight as possible. Because they wanted to get things as tight as possible. But it's not that way with cameras. For cameras, like plastic cameras, 2, a tightness of 2 on a 1 to 10 is enough. On metal cameras, a 3, maybe a 4, but rarely anything more than that. Okay, now, if you hadn't put an A like I told you to, you wouldn't know exactly where this goes. But since I took it off an A, I know. This button here that we talked about locks it in position. I don't know if you heard that. Clicks into position. Again, these little things save you time where you're trying to figure out how things line up. Not only lining up, I don't know how many of you have worked on cameras or anything, but sometimes when you're on your own, you get it to working, but then in the back of your mind you're saying, well, yeah, it's working, but is that right? And that's one thing that I'm here for, is to say, okay, it goes like this. And if you do, having some trouble here. Having some trouble. That's enough. Just a 2 is enough. Doesn't need to be any tighter. Okay, on off. Next is this clip I was telling you about. The ridges here and here go up, and this clip, you see how they fit in the notch here and here, and the ridges go up to engage the studs on the advance lever. A little grease there. Since it already has some, I don't need to put any more. And let's see. And I screwed everything up. So I get to take it off. What I was checking here is to see if I had it right, and I didn't. See? It wasn't. It needs to go counterclockwise till it stops. And I didn't do that. And if I had put the lever on, it just would have flopped back and forth there because it's not the right position. It has to be in what you might call an engaged point, where it's ready to be advanced. The shaft underneath is, I don't know if it's 360, but it's close to it. There, see how it's engaging? goes over the ridges and locks there. Hear it? Comes out, goes over the ridge, and then goes free. And now it's ready to engage that center shaft. And let's see if I can do this. It'd be nice if I could. Yeah, okay. And about a 2. Okay. We have got the advance back on, buttons in the right place. Speed control is down right. We know we got an A. Over here, we know we got it down in the hole. We got it 100 ASA. So, I'm going to do one last thing. Install my lens on there. There's not much light in my desk, so I'll set it at 2.8. Advance it. Turn the camera on right here. And I don't know if I did everything right, but there we go. Seems to be working. Turn the switch off, does not fire. Turn the switch on, fires. Okay. So, back that up there. That's, why don't we take that off too? Let's go ahead and go all the way. Just go, well, where is it? Is this thing having a film door on it? What did I do with that? Moving things around here. And I'm looking and I don't see it. How strange. It must be close. Guess I'll stop there. Turn this back on. There we go. See the lens. Okay. Guess I'll have to find that film door. I don't know what it is. Maybe I knocked it in the floor. Okay, there's the camera. We removed the top cover, and we managed to put it back on. And hopefully along the way I taught you a lot of things that you can use with any other repairs that you work on, little bits of information here and there. It's not just like on a lot of the other DIY take it apart, where they just have a camera overhead pointing down, and then they just take it apart, and they don't really tell you about the small points, the details, which you need to know so you don't damage the camera, so you're more sure of yourself, and also so you can repair other cameras. So that's about it. I guess we'll move along then. I guess there's not much else to say. Talked long enough. That was a video on the Minolta XGM, which is very similar to the XG1 and XG7. If you can do one, you should be able to do all three of them. Shouldn't be any problem. A lot of the lessons and details that apply to one apply to all of them. Remember that you're working with plastic, and not to tighten up anything too much. It won't come apart. It'll stay together. Plastic normally does. And if you are using a flash on these cameras, make sure that the flash is off before you install it, and it's off before you remove it. Try to stay away from third-party flashes on these cameras, or you may end up destroying the electronics on them. These are electronic cameras, and those early ones, And I don't know the difference between the early ones and the later ones, but these early ones were really easy to fry. And you've got to be careful. And I guess that's about it. Thanks for dropping by. Hope you enjoy the video. Later.